Okay, so I don't have any coffee. I don't have any cupcakes with me. Um, but I have me and my dog. So I wanted to come on here and so I just got off an interview with a company and it seemed like a really great company. I'm not going to say the name of it for the sake of anonymity out of respect for them because I didn't work for them. I was interviewing with them and it seemed right up my alley, kind of like more of a call center kind of job. And I have like a year experience doing that. Like maybe not like a call center, but I did do inside sales at a company called Sea Dream. So um, I'm kind of well versed in that respect. And I do sales. When I do sales, I do it differently. I know people can be very competitive and aggressive, but I like to build a relationship with somebody first, and and go from there. Because I think when you have good rapport with people, they're more liable to like trust you and want to like buy stuff from you. But I don't do it with intent like to make money. I do it because I want to make the other person happy, which is the same thing when I worked as a server. I did the same thing. Um, but I wanted to get on here because I was like, man, I need to like talk about this for a second because um, the job market. Oh, I'm 2 years with LinkedIn. Yay! um, the job market right now is pretty. I don't say dismal because there's a lot of job opportunities. I will say that I have been scammed. I think before, in the sense that I have experienced applying to jobs, and I wish I had like what that was. I wish I had something or coffee or like maybe I'll get crackers. Can I call it coffee and crackers? I don't really have well I do have crackers actually, and they're really good crackers. I do have popcorn, I can make popcorn, but I think just more so because I wanted to the reason why I'm saying that is because I wanted to stay true to what I wanted to do for my channel, which is like coffee and like the point of was to have like a moment where like if I was sitting down with someone and I had coffee with you and we were at a coffee shop, except this is not a coffee shop, this is an apartment. But we could pretend. I wish I could snap my fingers and then boop, you're in a Parisian cafe. Um, but I just wanted to come on camera and like I don't know if other people can relate to the situation, but um the job market, especially now, people with scamming and stuff, like they literally are making up like fake companies and fake websites, and I don't know what they get out of that. I don't know if it's like a monetary thing where they're trying to scam you to get your money. Um, but I just had an interview and the recruiter, and I don't want to say anything bad about her, but like it's twofold because I applied through Indeed. So Indeed, and maybe next time lesson learned, I'm gonna do my homework, and if I apply through like a third party company that I need to go follow up with like the actual careers page. And that's like a lesson learned for me. Go through the careers page. Don't always just rely on Indeed because it's going to be system generated, meaning like they're going to take the stuff from your resume and they're going to populate it into what's the word? They're going to populate it into their system, their HR system, which in this case, this was ADP. So I'm very familiar with ADP because another company that I worked with used ADP as their payroll system. And actually, two companies I worked for used that. And then another one used Paylocity. Um, uh, Another company used Paylocity. And Bamboo. I'm familiar with Bamboo HR. I'm familiar with Greenhouse. There's a lot of HR platforms that I'm familiar with from applying to jobs. Sometimes I wish if I could have studied marketing or human resources. I have so many passions that it's like trying to drive it all into one is hard. But that's just me. I'm a very multifaceted, dynamic person. I used to think there was something wrong with me in terms of having and that's kind of someone looked at my resume. If you looked at my LinkedIn profile, I've worked in healthcare, I've worked in hospitality as a server, I've worked in sales, I worked in education, I worked like pediatrics. I'm literally all over the place. And I know some people, their life path is like they wake up, they're born, they go, their parents are doctors or lawyers, and they're like, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a lawyer, and then that's the trajectory and the course that they're like takes, and they go to law school, and then they join a firm, and then they partner with the firm. I think that's how it works, and then yippee ki whatever. But I've just noticed that in this, the way, especially now when you interview with places, it's like, I think in order to get your foot in the door, it's so much harder because what they do is they use AI now to read your resume, and they don't, they like, it used to be like when I, my very first job, I was a server at a place called Gustafino. It was this tiny little, like, this teeny tiny um, boutique, like literally hole in the wall. And Tony Vecchio, I don't know where he is or what he's doing right now. He was my first boss ever, and he made the best maple sub I've ever. I mean, to this day, like I wish I could. Oh, it was so good on ciabatta bread with drizzled with olive oil. If ever I become, I'm gonna say strike it. I was gonna say strike it rich, but if ever I was able to make, like, have money, because I don't have that much money now. I don't mind sharing that, and there's reasons for that. But I would definitely maybe think about creating a food truck, and then everything that I've learned from like hospitality, and I would make like caprese sandwiches. I'd make my Cuban food that I've made here. I've made hamburgers. I would have like a set menu, and then just, and I'd also have like a give to the homeless, because I think the homeless do need to be cared for. That's just me. You know, I care about everybody. But anyways, so I digress. Let's scale it back. I need to. My brain goes off on a tangent, and then I forget, what I'm thinking about. So, anyways, scale it back. Um, but yeah, job hunting now. So they don't even. I use LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a very, I think, a good resource. There's a lot of job postings, but there's a lot of fake jobs that are created, and that's hard to navigate. And then it's kind of like, it's become so impersonal because, like I said, my first job, I went in and I met him face to face, and I was like, hi, I don't have any experience, but I'd love to learn, and teach me. And then I became a server and I learned the ropes, and I would like to say I'm a pretty decent server. I was I would say promoted, I was offered, and I took opportunities to be a trainer in different places, and I really enjoyed that because one thing I loved about I learned is I love mentorship. I love to help people. I don't know why. I think it just, maybe I'm just because I'm empathic, like, as a person, and it's weird because I sometimes feel like I need to be more cutthroat. Like, I need to be more, like, what's the word, like, not, what is it, self-centered, because I never think about myself. I'm always thinking about other people, and that can be a bad thing because, like, I know empathy is not a bad thing. It's not the enemy, but you want to you also need to put that energy back into yourself, and you need to highlight yourself and, like, sell yourself, whether it's for a job or anything. And I'm the kind of person where I'm like, oh no, yay, I celebrate other people's wins instead of mine. So from now on, because I don't know, I'm always the kind of person when people, like, especially even on LinkedIn, when I see people talk about, like, oh, I got this milestone award or whatever, and I'm like, I'm the kind of person, I don't want to publicize that just because there's someone who doesn't have an award, and maybe that can be like motivation for somebody. I don't know, but for me, it's kind of like, keep your humble, like, be humble, keep your accomplishments to yourself, unless, like, you can put it on your resume. Oh, I did a presentation for this. But the people I feel like that need to publicize constantly, like, oh, I won this award and I got promoted to this position. I'm like, but LinkedIn will do that by default though. But for me, I'm like, I don't know. I'm very big on staying humble. So, like, but anyways, just going back to, so LinkedIn itself is like, it's a great resource. There's a lot of jobs that are posted there, but for some reason, it's like, it feels real, like, so when you apply, it says how many other people applied, and it says 100 applicants, 50 applicants, 23 applicants, and you're up against, like, and I'm like, how are these people, how is an HR recruiter, because I learned, so what they happens is, it's called a requisition. So requisition number 2257900, right? For X position number, you know, I don't know, what's a customer service representative for, I don't know, random company. Um, I don't know, what's a random company? I'm trying to think. Solar panel lighting, even though I would never apply to something like that, like home improvement or whatnot. Um, but people do. People like home improvement, so kudos to them. Um, but what happens is now your resume gets filtered through, like, that requisition. That HR recruiter is going to have, I think, like 3 to 5 other requisitions, and I think they type in keywords, and they use, I think what I've read somewhere is called a Boolean search. So they don't really they try to see if your cover letter, your thing, but then what happens is that for me, what I feel like is that you're going to get a lot of people, yes, they're going to have the skills, they're going to have abilities, they're going to have the experience, right? Maybe, but you don't get to see the person behind the paper. I think there's so many people that are so skilled, and I've noticed this, and I've learned this from training people when I was a server. You can have the person who has amazing experience and they've worked in the most like upscale fine dining restaurants, but they have no personality. They're jerks, they're rude, they're self-serving, they're not a team player, but they're great servers. They can boom, 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 move around the dining room like it's nobody's business and maybe sell really well, but they just don't care. Or like or they're more prone to having a short fuse, or they're more prone to having guests that are like um, you know, like left unhappy because they're more, and I get it, like when you're in sales or hospitality, the goal is the bottom line, right, which is to make the money, to make profit. But how do you do that? You build relationships with people, and I think I'm kind of a testament to that. I always, any field that I go into, I've literally, like I came from a field called child life therapy, had zero experience in that, but I volunteered. My dog is being there, but I volunteered in that sense, and then I kind of just I grew. I'm the kind of person, I'm a grower. I it's like steady steps, right? My dog is literally playing with her squeaky toy, which she hasn't played with squeaky toys in like 2 weeks. And yeah, so but anyways, I got sidetracked. But yeah, and I grow, but so there's people that have so much potential, like, and I wish recruiters would see that there's probably such a vast pool of people who are so talented and come with so much potential and growth. And a lot of people, what happens is they filter the resumes by, okay, customer service, quality improvement, account management, project management, whatever. They do that, but then you're going to get this person who may be one dimensional, who, yeah, you can say, oh, that person. So if someone said for me, like, let's say I apply for a job and I don't really have that much experience in it, they'd be like, oh, she got hired because she's a personality hire. And it's like, no, because someone either sees the potential or they're like, she's the kind of person I would want to be on the other side of the phone when I have my customer calling in. Like, that's how I would do it if I was a recruiter. And now I feel like what happens is that so many people get overlooked. You have such viable potential people, and then we're people like that are losing jobs to people who, yeah, they have the experience, but like, I've been on the phone with people before calling customer service, and they're like, hello, yes, welcome, whatever. Some of them are super nice, but you can tell that they're just, it's a job, it's a paycheck. So I'm not trying to vent, it's just like, it's frustrating because I wish there was this change overall, and people, it's like, there's that change with where Gandhi says, be the change you wish to see in the world. But it's like, man, it's hard because to affect change, you have to have stakeholders. They're called key stakeholders. You have to have people who are willing to invest in that change. And then they add more key stakeholders and they're like, you know what, this is a change. Once you get, because buy-in happens when you have multiple people who are in accordance and agreement, right? They have a unanimous decision about something. So changing the way people go about hiring people, it's just, and it's very it's also who it's networking. But I've even had a good example was like there was a position for a company I wanted to work for that I am actually like not really a consumer of, but I utilize their platform to do things like reviews and whatnot. And I applied for, it was an account, I think it was account support representative or something like that, and you're doing basically like outreach and you're trying to garner like lead generation, basically like business to business kind of thing. And they I got, and I reached out to somebody who was direct contact that I knew pretty well, like from this company. And I reached out to her directly on LinkedIn, never heard back. And then I look on LinkedIn and I see that she posted something and I'm like, man, I'm like, God, jeez. I'm like, I asked God, I'm like, where's the kindness? I'm like, did we forget this? Like, because for me, I treat people, so I'm very much one, I treat people the way I would want to be treated. So I would like to, with respect, with kindness, integrity, compassion. I don't know where that's gone. It's kind of fallen by the wayside. I've noticed this lately, and it's sad. It's just, it's disappointing. It's disheartening. Um, yeah, and I hope that changes. I don't know how to affect that change because I'm just one person, but man, it's hard. And I'm sure other people can feel that the same way too, because like I see it and I look at, like, when you go on LinkedIn and it says 100 people applied, and I'm like, man, everybody's trying so hard, but sometimes people are losing jobs or losing opportunities to things because the recruiter's going by keywords, or they're not, they might miss someone who might be a great fit for a position. Maybe they don't have the experience, but they go, you know what, I see potential in that person. And that might be the person who ends up being the VP of the company one day, or is the head manager of a team, you know? Which, yes, that is my dog's crate in the background. So, anyways, is this another scam text? I get so many scam texts. I don't even have a vehicle. So I have my old phone. I have an old phone from when I lived in Florida, which was on my parents' contract. I just had a random text about. See, that's another thing. Scams. There are so many scams these days that happen. It's insane, and you know when it's a scam because even it's a SunPass. Like, I'm gonna put report junk. So, but that's what's happening too. Is that there's people making fake, and I don't know what they get out of that. Oh, my neck. Um. So yeah. Um. I just wish things would change, and I don't know how. I don't know if anyone ever, if someone does watch my video and they're like, "Yeah, I'm going through this situation too. I'm trying to get a job, and it's hard." And and I'm basically, I don't want to go too much into my story, but and I don't like to say things happen to you; they happen for you, right? And I'm into the metaphysical and the spiritual, so I like to think that, I know it's kind of sounds woo woo, but to me, I think we kind of all not decide our fate. I want to say our fate is set in stone, but we kind of a really good movie that depicts this is from Disney. It's called Soul, and it's like there's like the soul factory in the movie, and then basically you incarnate into your physical form. So it's kind of like we all kind of chose like what we wanted to do before we got here. So like I guess my soul knew I was going to go through this, but I'm almost at the point where you can say destitute. I know I have, and it looks like, let me tell you, I don't look like what I've gone through. I look like if I said half of the stuff that I've gone through and the people that have really tried to drive me down to the ground and almost essentially pulverize me and be into dust, yeah, that's my story. Um, and I'm really sorry my wall is so. This is not my home. This is again a furnish finder. It's so. I wish there was like a beautiful, colorful painting on the wall, but there's not. And I'm not going to do anything to ruin the wall. But but yeah, I've gotten to the point where like, and it's hard, and I have, like, I'm sure we all have credit card debt, we all whatever, but I prided myself on being someone who had very little debt. And what happened was people who were not so nice kind of just, changed things around and made it really hard for me to like get jobs and stuff. And when you go through something like that, because again, kindness is free. There's a quote that says, kindness is free, sprinkle that everywhere. SHIT, or sprinkle that stuff everywhere. And I'm big on that because I feel like it's so severely lacking sometimes. Um, so yeah, but I feel like the job landscape now, like, I feel like we need to, like, recruiters need to be more personal. And I get it. A lot of people apply to jobs, and I get that they're going to go through the things, and the keywords. I mean, I try to put myself in their shoes. That's what empathy is. When you try to put yourself in someone else's shoes, you gain their perspective. So it's like, but for me, I feel like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm a weird bird. I do things differently. I don't do things the way that, like, and I'm not rebellious. I take I don't know, it's a more emotional approach. I guess it's a more empathetic approach to everything. And that could almost kind of get you in trouble sometimes, because I learned in some companies, it's interesting because when you go through an HR training, they're very big on, like, when you see something wrong, say it. Like, if you see a coworker or someone engaging in like unethical behavior, say it. But when push comes to shove, if there's a risk of like, or a liability of like it really being a detriment to the company overall, like the face of the company or something, I've learned that more often than not, people probably won't do anything to affect that change, and they'll just keep the system the way it's going. If it works, they won't change it. It's kind of like, why reinvent the wheel if it's something is working? Why, you know? But to me, ethics is really big. I don't know. I feel like I was built that way. God made me in a way where I'm like, I cannot deviate from, ever, like, my morals and stuff. I mean, and I never have. I don't lie, I don't cheat, I don't steal. Like, literally, and I'm not going to get too much. I was going to do a series. I will talk about dating and all the, like, sexy stuff, which is not going to be for kids. It's for adults, because I just feel like that's another topic I've always, like, I used to shy away from when I talked about sexuality and, whatever, and coming into your own, I guess, or whatnot. Um, but yeah, I'm not going to talk about that. But it's thing that I don't know how I got on the topic of dating, but there was a point to that. Um, but I am kind of the one oh, because of morality. That's why I was like, ethics, integrity. The most I've ever deviated was probably from my morals, would probably be, which I want to talk about. I wanted this to be like a professional thing to talk about professionalism and job hunting and whatnot. Um, I'm sorry, my neck was really, I don't know why. I mean, that's probably not good to do. I know it like shifts your jaw and stuff, but I try to avoid myself because it hurts. Um, so yeah. Um, what else? Yeah, I feel like we need to, like, there needs to be a change in that respect, because I've applied to almost, like, I will say, I don't know, I'm a pretty decent writer. I do like to write. Um, and I never know if I write, if it's too much or too little. I'm trying to find a happy medium between, like, where's, like, to find equal, like, balance, like, do you write too much in a cover letter? Do you do too little? There was, I did see, like, I don't know if it was on TikTok, because I don't have TikTok, but, like, there was a short video somewhere, and they're like, the girl was like, this is the resume that landed me my Fortune 500 job or whatever. And it was such a boring, like, the way it looked was so boring. And I was like, I can't do that. I'm like, my resume literally has, like, polka dots. Like, if someone saw my resume, and I mean, I came from a background of working with children, but, like, literally it has, like, polka dots on it. And I'm like, maybe this is why. But that's me. That's who I am. I don't want to deviate from. There's a show called Zoe's Playlist, Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist, and she's like a coder for this company. And then she's able to, like, hear the people's thoughts, but, like, through music or something. It's a really good show, actually. And there was a line that this guy, the character Simon, said. Simon says, but Simon said that, because, so, okay, this was really a good point. So Simon, about the corporate world. So Simon spoke up about racial injustices in his in the company. Like, he was being treated differently, um and he spoke up about it. He shed light on it, and some people in the company, the people didn't like that, and there were these investors who were, like, literally going to invest in the product that they were creating. I don't know if it was a watch or something. And again, it's a fictitious show, but, like, it shed light on topics and issues that are prevalent today. And this was a show that's, like, older. I don't even know when. I don't know if it was like 2015, or let me see. Zoe's Extraordinary. Let me see what year this was. 2020. And Rory Gilmore's mom is in it. Lauren Graham. I shouldn't say Rory Gilmore's mom, but Lauren Graham is in it. I love Lauren Graham. I just, because she's from Gilmore Girls, and Alexis Bledel, which they don't age. Those women do not age. It's amazing. Um, so 2020. So it's a relatively new show. But in the show, there's a character, Simon, who she kind of, like, the main character kind of has, like, a thing for, but they're working together. I don't know. It was scandalous, but it was so good. But she ended up with the other dude. I forgot his. Oh, Max. She ended up with Max, who she fell in love with or whatever. But in the show, Simon said Simon says. I think it's funny because Simon says. Simon says he speaks up about being mistreated because he's a person of color. And if anyone watches my videos, I don't like to say black, white, because I'm just like, we're people. I don't want to define ourselves by our skin. I just know that's what we do. like when we do the census and whatever, I know it's for like demographics and whatever population, but I just feel bad. Like I don't want to define someone by their skin color. That's just like me. I don't know. Maybe I'm weird. Whatever. Um, but he is a person of color, and he's very handsome. Let me tell you, that guy, that character, that actor, very handsome man. Um, I don't know who he is. That's the first time I've ever seen him, but I'm like, whoo, that man, he is a handsome looking dude. Um, I'm getting off topic, but anyways, he says something so that resonated with me. He basically said, um, he said, um, I don't want to amputate parts of myself to like make people feel comfortable. He's like, why should I have to amputate parts of me to make other people happy? It was something in that context, right? And because they told him to stand down, they told him to take back his statement of what he said about in, oh my God, what was the name of the company? It was the name of the company. Hold on. Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. I can't. The company that. Hold on. What is it? Oh my God. What's it called? What is it? I can't remember the name of the company. So it says a young woman discovers she has the ability to hear the innermost thoughts of people around her as songs and musical numbers. I wish I had that ability. That would be. If everyone broke out into song and they're like, oh, I would love that. But anyways, Spark Point. Spark Point. That's the name of the company. Spark Point. So the head guy who looks like Mark Zuckerberg, he has like these little curly hairs. He created SparkPoint, and they all work for it. And then he basically said, "You need to take back your statement because we have investors coming to invest in our product. You need to take it back because now you look like you're on this racial justice kick, and that's not going to be a good look." And he said, "No," and he was like, "I'm not." And he was going to resign from his position. He was like, "I'm going to quit." And he was basically, I don't know, I think he was in marketing. I think his position was marketing, but that's what I mean by standing up for your morals and like ethics and integrity. And he had an amazing job. He had a good salary. I mean, it's a true depiction of what happens in life. And there's been points where people get targeted for stuff like that, for speaking up at a job because they're like, I'm not being treated right, right? And then they literally get targeted like after. And I literally like that's a real known fact, like 100%. And that's really sad because and I'm not talking racial justice is just the thing that they were highlighting in that episode. But when you think about it, like think about talking about discrimination, and it could be racial discrimination, it could be religious discrimination, it could be sexual orientation discrimination, it could be sexual harassment, anything, right? And you're in the workplace where you work, you're there more often than you are with your family, right? So you want to feel comfortable where you work. And it's like I feel like people don't want to have these conversations. They don't want to, if you're someone who speaks up and you get ousted or you're told to stand down. But anyways, he said, why should I have to amputate parts of myself to make other people feel comfortable? So they had a whole press conference basically, like where he was the keynote speaker about what the new upcoming he was PR, he was the public relations specialist or director at SparkPoint at this company in the show, and he said, why should I stand down if it's the truth? And then so basically he was really smart. So the character, what they did is they had him do kind of research into the what like employee satisfaction, and then other people started championing him and saying, yeah, I feel like I'm being racially profiled or I'm being discriminated against. So basically he had not ammunition, but he had proof, and he brought it to his boss and is like, hey, these are people from other branches of SparkPoint in XYZ part of the country, they're feeling the same way too. And also other companies as well that were software companies or technology companies were also saying. So it shows you the power that media and a show can have. But it was a very accurate depiction, I think, of what kind of happens in society. And sometimes those uncomfortable conversations that you don't want to have need to be had, because that's the only way change is effective, right? If you get comfortable in the uncomfortable. A lot of people, they shy away from things that they feel passionate about, or they that they know need, like a lot of people will rather stand down and let things, like they'd rather be a bystander to like discrimination or let things happen because it's too hard, right? Having those conversations that were like change needs to be affected, it's hard. And you get scrutinized, you get ostracized, you get ridiculed, you might get fired. And it's like, to me, it's like if a company does that to somebody, then guess what? That's not a company you want to work for. Like, I always say I want to work for a company whose mission and vision, like, they align with my core values and my beliefs. Because a lot of people, they put, oh, and, I've seen companies where they're like, oh, we care about the people. We put patients first. Or like, your needs are our needs. Like, and it's like, and they're like, we have the utmost integrity. And I'm like, bro, I've seen it where it's just like a BS where that's not even true. But anyways, going back to talking about jobs and stuff, like it is hard, and especially if you're someone like me who's very impassioned, and I care so much. Like, I remember when I worked, I don't know if this is good to say this because I don't know if anyone in Miami will watch this, but there was a company I worked for, and I don't know, but this might be too specific, and I don't know. I don't really keep in touch with anyone from Miami really from my past, so whatever. I'll say it anyways, as long as I don't say the name of whatever said company. But I've seen it where basically I'll keep it as ambiguous and generalized so it doesn't seem like I'm mentioning one specific group of people or whatever. But I've been in situations where I've noticed things that weren't for the best interest of patients that were being done. And these are little tiny people patients. Like, I'm talking brand new babies. And we blocked your account. I have, with this, iCloud. See another spam email. I get so many spam emails. I'm going to put report junk. And then it goes in the junk pile. Goodbye. And through very strategic and compassionate project implementation, I was able to actually affect change in that department that I worked in. It wasn't easy, and it literally took almost a year. It took a year to change things, and it was something so simple as, like, so I did, how do I mention, I'm trying to say this without being too specific. When I did my master's degree, I did a paper, my dissertation, I guess, or thesis, was basically on infant mental health and the effect of TV or as a, what was it? It was the use of media or television on the effect on the infant brain, right? On infant brain development in the early stages of development, the detriments and the benefits. And I looked at evidence-based practice. I looked at research from the AAP, which is the American Academy of Pediatrics. And I went ahead and I tried to figure out, is TV, or DVDs, are they good is that beneficial to infant brain development? And the research shows that it's not, that the American Academy of Pediatrics determined that it was not in the best interest of babies, that, when you're a itty bitty baby and you're 4 months old, your brain is still developing, and when you look at pictures, like, it's one dimensional, right? It's not a 3D thing. It's a one dimensional screen, and there's colors, and actually it's more distracting and causes more disorganization in the brain. Not, but there's a point to what I'm saying to this. Is basically, so the findings indicated that it wasn't good for the brain, and I was someone where I was noticing that this was being used because there was no other form of stimulation. So in order to affect change, I implemented a cuddler program where the babies that I was working with would be held. So I had to amp up. I had to work with the children's experience kind of manager coordinator of the department I worked with to try to implement a cuddler program at the NICU that I worked at. And because it was found that skin to skin contact that helps form positive neuronal associations in the brain. And when you touch, there's oxytocin that's released, there's dopamine, and it was really beneficial for babies. So I had to do that. Then my next plan of attack was to educate staff. So I created in-services for every single, and this was all in the span of a year as a brand new, what we call child life specialist. And I created an in-service because I'm very ambitious. When I see something that needs changing, I'm like a workhorse. I do not stop, right? I like to say in my resumes and my cover letters, I'm relentless in the pursuit of excellence. So that's that. And quality improvement is like a really big deal to me. So, I went ahead and I implemented a color program. I beefed up our volunteer program for the NICU because I didn't have any volunteers. And I said, hey, I need volunteers. I need these babies to be held, at least the ones that were appropriate for stimulation, even if they were um, not on, maybe if they were on CPAP. So CPAP is an acronym for continuous positive airway pressure. So it's basically like like someone that has sleep apnea, but imagine a baby having that. So because a lot of the babies had bronchopulmonary dysplasia, they had respiratory distress syndrome, so RDS. Um, so basically, they might have a pneumothorax, like a collapsed lung. There's a lot of different things in the NICU that you see. But basically, so I tried to do that. I tried to implement. I myself got certified to be an infant massage specialist or certified infant massage instructor, CIMI, right? Or right, certified educator of infant massage. I did that. I color program. I developed a NICU protocol, like stimulation protocol, like a flow chart or a map, a visual map of like how services needed to be provided in a NICU to help promote positive psychosocial development and social emotional development, because babies matter, because infants matter, right? Because people think infants are like, they're so smart. Babies are so smart. They just don't know, like the output, the verbal output is harder, right? So as a child life specialist for people who are in occupational therapy, you try to promote that, right? Or speech pathologist, language pathologist. So I did that, and then I did staff education. I worked with a music therapist directly on the unit, and we kind of like co-treated, and we kind of had this like initiative. We're like, okay, we're going to do this, and this is how we're going to do it. I remember sitting down in a meeting with the medical director of the unit. I'm not going to say her name. And I also sat down with the clinical care coordinator for the nurses, for the nursing department, and we're like, this is our goal, this is our game plan, and it's not easy. I mean, I spent a lot of days making flyers. I did overtime. I would take my work home with me, which I don't recommend. See, but this is my point in saying that there's a lot of like if someone if they didn't take the time to get to know me, they wouldn't know all those things that I did. A paper and a resume is not going to show and highlight all the things that I did when I worked at said hospital or said organization. And that's sad. And there's a lot of people that are, like I said, so talented and they have so much potential, but they're going by keywords and they're using AI and all this stuff to filter out resumes. And it's like you're missing it's impersonal. You're missing that key element of like having that interaction with somebody, right? So yeah, so that's kind of, but it's the reason why I'm saying that is that it took a lot of time to implement change, right? Especially organizational change. I kind of feel at this point I'm so used to working in companies where there's the volatility, meaning like how liable, like how I'm trying to think of this, the volatility a good word. Usually when there's a lot of volatility, like there's a lot of ebbs and flows and fluctuations in something. So um yeah. Um, So look, I bet you. So one thing I notice when I get these emails when it doesn't say update says thank you for including, but we really appreciate the member care advocate. This is a perfect example. So I applied for a position at a company. I guess I'm not gonna. Can I not highlight? I don't want to say the name of it. Does it say it already? Oh, it already says it. But the company says member care advocate, and people don't realize that as a child life specialist, I have so much experience advocating for patients. But this company doesn't know that because they're just going by the keywords and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's a little bit frustrating. But I will say that it's kind of like, I look at it like what it's almost like what in dating is the same thing, like their loss, my gain. Because when someone rejects you, if someone ghosts you, if someone, it's literally the same thing. You just brush it off and you're like, okay, let's keep moving forward and figure out how, what you can do. And there's other outlets too. You know, if you have a will, there's a way. So you just have to find the way, I guess. Um, but I have gotten numerous emails where it says thank you for your interest in XYZ. At this time, your background isn't a fit for the member care advocate opportunity. We will, however, continue. So I know for a fact that some of these, they might be fake jobs too, because for some reason people do fake job postings. But I also realize that they miss out, because when you think about it, I know what I can offer as a person to a company. And if anyone's going through the same thing where they're applying to jobs and you're getting rejected, don't take it personally, because there's probably like 50 million applications that they get in a day, and yours is like in the pile. So, yeah, I just think be proactive. I always say that it's the same thing with dating. The right person will come along at the right place at the right time. And the wrong one, be mindful, because the wrong one can disguise themselves as being the right person, but they can really be the wrong person, but they want to come up as the right person. So you have to, like, you know, you have to do some kind of like investigative homework, and kind of figure out, is this the right fit for me? Because don't forget, like, they're interviewing you, but you have to interview them too, because that's one thing I have learned the hard way. You can apply willy-nilly and go ham and like apply to a bunch of jobs, and let's say you get lucky where you get an interview with people. You need to interview them. So I've learned after every interview, they go, do you have any questions for us? Now, from experience, I've learned, okay, what are the kind of companies that I want to work for, and what do I not want to work for? I want to know about your culture. I want to know, what I like to ask is, what do you like working? What do you like most about working for XYZ company? And if that person hesitates or they don't know what to say, they really don't like working there. Because if they loved it, they'd be like, oh my God, let me tell you all about Jujubes. I don't know. I'm just making up an example. Uh, I don't know. I don't know. I can't think of a random name for a company right now. But that's when you know. Like, I ask them, what's the culture like at the where you work? What do you like most about working there? In the time that I'm there, how do you expect me to perform? Right? Like, or me to perform, or what would you like to see in somebody that attains this role? How would you want? What are the results you want them to produce, or what's the expectance of that person in that role? Right? And you get a clear idea and picture of, you're like, okay, do I want to work there? Is it going to be all about corporate? Is it going to be about the bottom line? Am I just going to be another worker bee in the like a cog in the machine, or am I going to be valued and respected? So you have to interview them just as much as they interview you. That's the way I go about it. I've rejected jobs where the salary seemed amazing, the pay seemed awesome, because they've spelled my name wrong. And it sounds crazy. It sounds crazy, but just that small detail, the fact that they overlooked if they spelled your name wrong, like, God forbid, I'm someone, when I send emails and I compose an email, I proofread it, I revise it, I edit it. Just even emails to people, like, personally, I literally, like, I take the time to be thorough, because that's just who I am. Because I'd want to show respect to that person, like, I wouldn't want to be disrespectful. I'd want to impart that respect, because like, literally, I have a sign. I got this at Cracker Barrel. It came like on a little golden stand, but like, it says, "In a world where you can be anything, be kind." And it's true, because like, people that are mean, it's so ugly. And I'm not saying a recruiter's mean, but that genuine kindness, you can feel that. Like, when you do an interview, I can tell. I mean, I'm telling you, sometimes I tell myself I should have been a criminal profiler or like a forensic psychologist, because, bro, like, I can see someone and I'll be like, boom, like, they can wear a smile and I can be like, you're BSing me. You're not who you say you are. You're married. You're, like, I literally can, you know, I should have, I should have gotten the route. Funny story, I actually applied once to work for the FBI. Did not go through with it. It's a pretty rigorous process. You have to, like, speaking of like criminal psychology and whatnot, I forgoed that opportunity. You have to take I hate taking tests. I'm like the worst. That's one thing I wish I was. I'm not like book smart. Like, if I'm passionate about something, I will engross myself and engulf in it. Like, I will wholeheartedly, like, medicine, science to an extent, physiology. That's as most science. Like, chemistry, no, I could not do chemistry. But they make you do a test. There's like, it's logic, reasoning, I think problem solving, rationale. Um, I think I don't remember if there was math in there. I got To be honest, I was really scared. Like, I don't want to do math problems. Like, so math was in there. I just got nervous because I was like, what if, like, I failed the test? Even though I was going to prepare myself for it, like, 100%. And anybody, if you want to apply to that, and let me tell you this, I was seeing on Indeed all the time about like FBI positions, and it's like they're looking for people with psychology, healthcare experience, and I'm like, bro, like that's me. I was like, I have that, and I was like, well, I like to help people, and I want to help the world, save the world, right? But having a dog, when I conferred with family, they're like, you have a dog, like that. They're like that kind of lifestyle, like because basically they assign you somewhere and then you have to go travel different places. I think the first year you're in an office setting, uh, but it wouldn't. It just and then because you have to train, and it's funny because I lived in Virginia before. You have to train. There's a show called Quantico. Priyanka Chopra was in it, but you have to train at a facility called Quantico. Basically, it's like it's right next to a military base. But I'm like, I just know me as a person. I would probably be picked on and bullied so much if I had gone through with it because I'm the kind of person to keep myself grounded and cope. I sing a lot for fun. I was actually considering, like, there's a kid on YouTube who does the vocals, the male vocals, but he does duets and he does like karaoke and he creates a video so women can sing along so they can feel like they're doing a duet. And I'm like, bro, maybe I should do like the female version of that and like do a channel where I sing like the female parts and then there's like the male part because there's some dude who maybe wants to do a musical theater song and a duet, but they can't practice it because they don't have a partner there. So I'm like, why not? That's maybe something I might do in the future. I don't know. It depends. I'm not really. I don't really like to sing. I did do theater way back, like musical theater, growing up. But like, and it's funny because like I don't know why I was so comfortable singing on stages now. I'm like, I do not want to sing in front of anybody because I'm too nervous. But anyways, going back to the FBI thing. But I got nervous to do that because the test like it requires there's like math and like word problems and I'm like I don't want to do like there's like a practice test online and they ask about one of the questions it was I remember it talked about money laundering and they're like oh this is what would you do and I'm like when there's too much pressure on me I can't like it's just I need my space to think and like you know figure it out that way so I didn't go through with it. I had scheduled to do the test, but I didn't. Um, and I guess it's for the best, like everything happens for a reason. It would have been really cool to put like, I told myself, can you imagine like on my LinkedIn, it's like teacher, da da da. But can you put, I don't know if you could put that on LinkedIn, special agent, right? That would be pretty cool. I would have been like, pat myself on the back for all the stuff that I've been through. And then I put, boom, I put like everyone who doubts somebody. And then you put like special agent on there. You're like, I don't want to shoot the finger like on screen, but um, I don't know. There's a certain set of I think prestige that comes with that. It's like saying, oh, you go to Harvard or whatever. It's kind of like not equating Harvard to the FBI, but it's kind of like I don't know if I can anymore. I don't want to speak poorly about people that work in law enforcement, but um, I consider like the FBI to be kind of like they're like the premier law enforcement agency. So it's like if you get that, like I know there's like Secret Service and there's like U.S. Marshals and stuff, but like I kind of was like that would be pretty bad ASS if I was to do that after all. And I literally because of stuff I've gone through in the past with not so nice people, I'm such a like in anything, just like what I did with the NICU. I'm such a go getter. If there's something I don't know, I will find the training and the skills and whatever when I want because of stuff that happened, I guess in the past, I literally was going to train myself. I got like, um, and you wouldn't think as a yogi I'd be big on like firearms. I got like firearms training. Um, I went to like a self defense academy. Like that's just who I am. I'm a go getter. I'm ambitious. So yeah. Um, but I forgot. I kind of segued into talking about that. But my point is that if you have the determination and the drive, you can do it. But there are people that I think are being overlooked for jobs and stuff, and it's like because they don't see the person, they see the paper, and it's hard to convey who you are on a paper or just like a job application, like Indeed or something like that. So my advice if you're someone like me and you're like you have all of these ideas and you're trying to figure out how to channel that energy create your own thing. Sometimes, like, if you're not being welcomed or well received somewhere, be the change. Like, be, do, like, you affect the change. Like, take the steps necessary. If you're seeing that you're not getting something, maybe that's the universe way of telling you you need to do it yourself. Like, you create your own company. Mind you, I don't really know the steps how to create your own company, but you see all these companies that take off that are like small businesses that started off small, like Lumi. Lumi's that deodorant, that natural deodorant. Didn't really work for me, but that's just me. Maybe it worked for other people. Didn't really work for me. But now she's huge. She's all over the place. Um, Dr. Squatch, the soap that's like, which is amazing soap, took off. Um, Poppy, the Poppy brand of the soda, huge. You see it everywhere. Bombas socks. Are they called Bombas? I've been wanting a pair of socks from them for like forever. Um, Huge. It starts with an idea, and if people see that idea and they're like, hey, that's something I want to buy into, you know, yeah. So, use your skills, use your talents, use your abilities, and channel it somewhere else. Because if people aren't like, we don't really see like want to invest in you if you're getting more no's and yeses, and maybe that's the universe's way of telling you like you need to reroute and you know take a different approach. Um, So yeah, but I don't know if anyone else has had trouble with job hunting and things like that. And sometimes people who are more artistic in nature, I do consider myself kind of artistic in the sense that I don't know if it's more left brained or right brained, but I think it's right brained if you're more artistic. I'm not, let me see. I always wonder. I always get this wrong because I feel like left brained versus because I know one side, if you're more analytical, then you're more this. If you're more creative and artistic, then you're more right brained. I think it's the same. People say if you're right brained, you're more, yeah. So I'm more right brained, if anything. But I'm also pretty cerebral and intellectual. So it kind of, I have like a nice combination of both. Um, so yeah, I hope, I think if enough people talk about it, they can affect change, but it's easier said than done because I noticed that because I got off an interview literally just now and I'm like, this is interesting. And the lady, so the reason why, so I had the interview and it seemed very promising. It seemed like a good company. Um, I hope it wasn't fake. I don't know. I don't know what someone would get out of creating a fake job posting, reaching out to someone to do an interview and then not going through with it. But uh, what was told to me was that they weren't hiring in my region. It was a remote position. They weren't hiring in my region. I looked at my profile and it said it had a different state that I was in, but my if someone does this is me as an if I'm not an investigator, but if I was, I'd look at their LinkedIn, I'd be like, okay, it says St. Albans, Vermont. A good recruiter would have inquired and said, hey, I noticed this, on your profile it says you live in Virginia, but your LinkedIn profile says Vermont. Where are you currently residing? Versus kind of, and I'm so used. Let me tell you, I have such thick skin now that like nothing phases me. So I've been rejected so many times, whether it's from jobs, different things in life, whether it's dating. I'm just like, you grow thick skin. There's a song by one of my favorite Broadway performers. Her name's Laura Osnes, and it's called Thick. I haven't listened to it in its entirety, but she said, "A thick skin, a soft heart," and that's what I kind of figured. That's what I have. Um, you have to have thick skin because people are gonna be really mean. People sometimes will plot against you just to like conspire against you just because, like, not for any reason. They will just want to tear you down. Or some people just their temperament, their disposition lends themselves to being more, I don't know, like just mean. They're maybe they were hurt before, like when they were younger. Maybe they didn't have the best upbringing or childhood, and unfortunately, people don't know how to. They weren't taught the proper coping mechanisms or coping skills. So, um, they channel that energy outwardly and overtly, but like in a maybe a more passive aggressive manner, or they treat people, they act like they have good intentions, but really they're like they undermine people. Those are the worst kinds of people. The people who act like they have good intentions for you, man, those are the like, I don't want to say worst type of people, but they're really hard to deal with because they're the ones that you think they're promising and kind, and then they totally blindside you, and they're like sneaking behind your back trying to like conspire against you. That's hard. Um, and I was going to do another video on like how to deal with haters and stuff because I've had a few haters in the past 3 years or 4 years, and I think I've learned to manage that pretty decently. Like literally haters to the point where they compromise your safety. Um, but you carry on, you move forward, right? Um, I'm just going through my emails while I should give my undivided attention while I'm doing this. But yes, so keep the faith. If you're someone like me, if you've applied, and I've seen this, I saw a video recently where the guy said he was a 4.0 above average GPA applying to all these different colleges, and he kept getting no's, and he was like on this team and that team, but then he kind of changed his resume around. He I think he took interest in a different extracurricular activity, because when you think about it, so many people have, and the opposite side, the flip side, they get so many um, resumes that sometimes it's like you don't want the customary like traditional resume. You want someone that stands out, and I would like to say I stand out. um so yeah, um to try to separate yourself from the masses, find out what's, and this takes a lot of inner work. I'm going to be honest, this is a very introspective point. Get to know yourself, figure out what are your strengths and weaknesses, or areas for improvement or shortcomings, because once you can do, and sometimes you can say, oh, but you can turn a strength into a weakness. Like you can say, oh, I'm so empathetic, and sometimes I don't know when to stop. Like I used to be when I worked in the hospital. I was someone that I wanted to see every single patient. I was super ambitious, and I would try to see every single patient like nonstop. Like, you know, like I was like, and that was bad because I didn't have that. That led to poor time management. I led to burnout and compassion fatigue, and I was left like tired. I felt horrible because I felt like I didn't do a job well done. And then I learned to prioritize my caseload better. And I was like, okay, these are the babies, or these are the patients I'm going to see. And one thing a child specialist told me that was really key, she's like, that patient's still going to be here tomorrow. And if they got discharged, it probably was because the severity or the acuity of their case was, you know, the brevity of it wasn't that on a scale, it wasn't that like severe. So, you know, your services may not have been needed as much as it would be for a patient that's going to be here for the long term. And if you don't see them right when they're like admitted that day, there's some child life specialists that you work in a hospital where they literally like the moment someone's admitted, they're notified and boom, they get a consult put in. Other times you kind of have to do your homework and dig through, and you're like, oh, this is a new admission and whatever. So, but yeah, so I've learned you get to know yourself, because if you know yourself, you're going to be able to speak to your strengths and your weaknesses better, versus being like, I don't know, like, am I good at this or this and that. You want to be the person that's like, yeah, these are the areas that I'm really great at, and these are the areas that I need to work on. But it's going to help a recruiter or someone who's interviewing, and you'd be like, okay, that person's self-assured, they know themselves inside and out, and you know they're going to be a viable candidate for this role. Um, and if if you do get rejected from jobs, like I said, don't take it personally, because you're probably one out of like a million people who apply for the job. And yeah, I would say if you know someone in a role, like in a certain company, reach out to them. If you have a good rapport and good standing with them, if not, then, I will say in a spiritual sense, there is the whole like manifestation law of attraction thing. Um, I kind of go about it as like my motto with life for the past few years. I've learned to say, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. Meaning, like, you hope for the best, like it's going to work out, but you prepare for the worst. So when you get the result, maybe that like, hi, sorry, we're not moving forward with you, whatever. You're not like, oh, this is horrible, I suck. You're like, okay, this one didn't work out, another one will, and you keep going and you keep going, and that's the way I kind of see it, the way I look at life. It builds character, I will say. It builds like strength of character. Um, right? Because when you're hit so many times and you're knocked down and you're met with adversity and rejection and all this stuff, you can either like sulk and be like, oh my God, I suck at life. Why am I not getting hired? Or it can be like, there's other factors. Maybe there's someone more experienced and skilled than me, because there will be. I literally just mentioned another video when I was cooking. What was it, yesterday? Because I did a cooking video. Check out my cooking video. I'm not really a cook, but like, it's fun to cook. That's my therapy. But there's a poem that I love called the Desiderata, and it was written in like 1927 or 1930 something. And he said there will always be persons greater and lesser than yourselves. And the people that are greater than you, learn from those people because they're in that position for a reason. Go seek that internship. Go do that fellowship because you're gonna gain experience and knowledge. Because like I said, there's always gonna be someone who's better than you at something. Always. That's just the way it is. That's the way society is. There's people that are gonna be like, oh my god, like there's a child specialist that I knew. That girl is her brain, bro. Like her brain is like amazing. That girl, like she was my mentor. And she just knew it. She was like she knew everything about autism. That literally, she could literally create a program about how to work with patients on the spectrum and also how to overcome that and like work like she's like basically an autism whisperer. Is the best way I can put it. Um, and she is now very well. She's in a position where she manages. My headphone just went away. She manages a service line in California, I think a neurology service line with a very well-known, prominent hospital in the Bay Area, and yeah, and it's just you. That's the kind of person where when I was in her presence, and this is where also too you don't want to put people on a pedestal, but I would see people who acquired a certain status or certain level, and I'd be like, I want to sit next to that person because they know what they're doing. And I don't measure success. I don't look at myself as like, I don't define my self worth by how successful I am or like how much money I have in my bank account. For me personally, I know some people define success as like how many followers they have on Instagram, how much money they have, how many millions they've made. Um, the people they know in their network. I don't define success at all. I just, to me, I'm like, success to me, if you're a happy human, you're successful. That's my opinion. If you're joyful, because actually not happy, let's take that away. Happiness is a state of mind. I would say content. If you are content, because happiness is a, it's fleeting. It's a falsity in a sense. You can't be happy and elated all the time. We're just not. That's impossible. We're humans with emotions, a wide range of emotions, so that's impossible. So I would say that like being content with your life. If you're happy, like if you're content where you are, so happy then. But if you're pleased with how far you've come in life and you feel like an active contributing member of society, I think you're successful. If you've amassed a certain level of achievement and enlightenment in your life, I'm holding my heart because it's like meaning like if you feel like you're in the role that you need to be as a person and it brings joy to you, whatever that is. Now if you're a stripper, then you're a stripper, and if that's what brings you joy, then you know there's a certain environment. I think women that are like adult workers and stuff, but hey, that's their lane, that's what they want to do. But to me, I think if you're self-satisfied with yourself and how far you've come in life, and you can if you're, let's say, on your deathbed and you could look back and be like, I led a really fulfilled, wonderful life. That's success to me. You left people happier than when you first met them. You brought smiles to people's faces. You gave them hope where there was none. That to me is like the epitome of like, I don't know, success. People will contest that and be like, no, but I want the rose voice. I want the really hot boyfriend. And I'm sorry I'm doing a voice like that, but there's people that are really shallow that literally base their life on everything is status. Oh my god, I want the Moo Moo bag. Oh my god, I want the Louis Vuitton bag. And let me tell you, I grew up like, not saying wealthy, I grew up in affluence in an upper middle class family. So I had all that around me. And let me tell you, that means nothing. You can have the Louis Vuitton, you can have the best AirPods. Like literally, my AirPods are like, one of them has like weird stuff. I don't know. I shouldn't show that because that looks kind of funky. But you can literally have like, you can have everything in life and still be miserable. There are people that are so fucking rich and they're miserable. They have everything. They have 3 cars.